All right, Canada. Let's talk about how things have changed so much, or how it could also be flipped. The script could be flipped there, where it's the lack of change when it comes to the amount of work and hours of work that are put in by not just Canadians, but Americans, Europeans, right? Many people in modern Western developed countries. There were people talking back. I remember when I was growing up, in the 70s and 80s, people were talking about how in the year 2000 and beyond, how much our workloads would be greatly reduced, and efficiency and productivity would take the place of human labor. But if you look at it, anyone that realizes, and this article has recognized it, people are actually working more today, right? And this article would just talk about people have multiple jobs, and their jobs are no longer even permanent, and they're having to switch around all the time. But it's not that their workload is being reduced, it's being increased. There are people today, and I know it because even in my own life, I know people that have to work 2 or 3 jobs just to keep some semblance, and not to be rich, but just to kind of try to somewhat keep up with the Joneses, those in the public sector, or the cronies, or the corrupt government politicians or parasites, right? But people are desperate to try to maintain a certain particular lifestyle that they have become accustomed and was afforded to them early on. And the only way they're being able to do that in this stage of the game is taking on multiple jobs. And if you think about what all that entails, it isn't just a matter of, okay, I want to work a few extra. I mean, think about what taking on multiple jobs entails. It means being able to have employers that have to navigate around this constant mess of, well, can you work this day? Well, no, I can't work this day because I have to work at this job at these hours, and I can't. Well, no, I have this other job that, I mean, it's just humans, instead of seeing the benefits of productivity and efficiency, they're not seeing any of it, because central planners are realizing that, hey, look, there's a little bit left we can squeeze of them. Efficiencies and productivity has only given rise to central planners' ability to find new and improved methods and ways to plunder the masses. It's like, oh, look, they're doing a little bit better than they were, so no, we can't allow them to get used to doing better, so let's take from the top. Let's give them a haircut there. And people are just willing to accept it because their self-esteem is beat out of them through the public education system and collective mysticism, right? And believing in central planners and rulers in the first place. So they're not even willing to stand up and fight and say, well, no, I should be able to do better. In reality, we should all have such a healthy self-esteem and ambition that we should be saying, wait a minute, fuck this. This is the year 2000 and beyond. So we should be working to reduce our workload and our having to, put in many hours that denies our family or our friends or our personal relationships. We shouldn't have to do that anymore. We should be able to, in 2016, I mean, if you look at the amount of wealth that's generated and created, there's no reason whatsoever for the largest percentage of the masses to have to do this stuff, or even a certain small or medium percentile to have to deal with this shit. But let me just get into this article. It's called Young Money from the Financial Post. Rise of the Moonlighters. Why more Canadians are taking on side jobs and how to make it work for you. So I'm just going to read the article, but don't worry about what the fuck these guys got to say. Just listen. Well, I mean, listen to what they got to say, but use your own critical thinking skills to figure out what's wrong and how you can work around this kind of narrative. Arthur, a financial analyst, makes about $80,000 a year, often arrives at his office at 6 a.m. In addition to his 40-hour work week, he works 2 12-hour shifts valeting vehicles, bringing in at least $350 a week in extra cash. The money is just too easy to pass up, says the 36-year-old Brampton, Ontario father. He declined to give his real name to protect his jobs. Originally, I did it to supplement our income when my wife went on maternity leave. So it was just a stopgap measure. Now we have daycare, and that's pretty much a mortgage payment each month, and that's why he's kept it up. So once again, what he's really admitting is, well, instead of, because the valuations of everything are so expensive where you need two people working, it's like, well, wait a minute. I can't just ask my wife to stay at home, take care of the kids, because that won't pay the bills, right? So somehow, some way, either she or I have to assume more roles and responsibility and work many more hours to compensate. Meanwhile, the kid is pawned off on another entity, a party that, like, this kid is going to be raised predominantly. If you think about the amount of hours in a 24-hour time frame, if you think about the amount of hours your kids spend in daycare or schools or babysitters or not being, even when they're home, how many hours do the average parents actually put aside to not just be in the same room or home as their children, but to actively participate in their lives and speak to them or be compassionate or play with them or create activities that bring the family closer together? You know that it's very minimal in comparison to the amount of time they spend in government subsidized institutions, right? You're not the one that's raising your children. It's central planners and those who propagate the mysticism of government. Those are the people that have the most dominant time frame and influence on your child's life. You might think you do, but in reality, if you're not a parent like myself, then in reality, I've seen it, your kids are being raised by strangers, and you're willing to go along to get along because you get to go out to, by having these multiple jobs, you get to go out and consume, right? That's a failing model. I mean, look around. Tell me I'm wrong. You know I'm not. He allocates the money from his side hustle to childcare, debt repayment, vacation, and RESP and RRSP contributions. So your kids should be the most important thing, but because you're putting, like I said, this just is not going to work out properly for these people. But anyways, while part-time work isn't new, the side hustle has become increasingly associated with millennials, whether they're chasing a passion, trying to cover the high cost of home ownership, or wiping out the estimated average of $25,000 in student debt. And with the rise of the on-demand gig economy and e-commerce, experts say that we're going to see an increase in moonlighting. You're going to see more and more of it because people are seeing that work can be done non-traditionally, says Faith Tall, Senior Vice President of Human Resources at HR Consultants, Randstad Canada. Work is digitalized now. You don't have to be physically at a workplace. I met with a lady who worked full-time, and in the evenings she took calls for a pizza place from home. The percentage of workers with multiple jobs has more than doubled in the last 40 years to 5.3% last year. The percentage of workers with multiple jobs has more than doubled in the last 40 years to 5.3% last year. I suspect that's much, much higher. Either that or I'm way off the fucking mark in the people that I surround myself with or those that I hear from on a continual basis. I cannot believe that a 5.3% figure is what represents people that are working multiple jobs in Canada. Those of you that watch this video, give me some feedback. Let me know. Let's get a representation. Let's get our real representation. Give me massive amount of feedback and we'll be able to fucking completely undermine this kind of bullshit reporting. Without it, though, once again, I can only speculate. But I know in my own personal subjective experience, a lot more than just 5% of the population are working multiple jobs. In 2015, almost 959,000 Canadians worked at least 2 jobs. Most of my friends moonlight: the architect who works as a real estate agent, the financial planner who operates a dance school, the teacher who works weekends on a steakhouse. Well, if it's most of your friends, how can it only be 5%? Like I say, these fucking things are like, man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man. Statistics, like I say. When you live in the era where you can manipulate and misconstrue statistics, it's so hard to understand truth or reality anymore. Many moonlighters, statistics Canada says, has jobs, whether main or sideline, in business administration, office support, education, or health. About 27% of moonlighters last year listed retail as one of their jobs. As one. So once again, I think what this really comes down to, let me finish this last sentence. In my experience, folks are moonlighting simply because it's a financial gain for their family, Tall says. A lot of times, it's of a temporary nature to get somewhere. But I just don't understand where they're coming up with. Well, once again, with studies, who are the participants? Who are the type of people that want to actively participate in these fucking stupid government or corporate studies? It's usually not people. Think about it. In reality, what this is really telling you is even those that have benefited the most and are willing to go along and answer these kind of questionnaires, because like I said, I look around the people that I know in my own personal subjective life, no one I know answers any of these things. So it's like, who the fuck are answering these questionnaires or these studies? I have no idea who the fuck they are. But they're not a proper representation of the typical Canadian, because I look out there and I see who represent the typical Canadian, and they are not the ones that are answering these studies or these questionnaires. So this is completely misconstrued. There is a whole lot more than just 5% of Canadians that are having to work multiple jobs just to keep their heads above water. And even those that aren't putting themselves massively indebted are feeling that same, because, like I said, not just my own personal subjective experience, but the experiences that I know and that I hear from other people. So we are on the radar. The percentage in numbers I can't give you properly, but it's enough that, yeah, it's not just a slight blip on the radar. You probably know it in your own personal life that it's quite prevalent, to be honest with you. So let's get some feedback to this kind of bullshit, and let's hear what other Canadians have to say about the kind of bullshit narrative they're presenting in this article, where there's only, 5-6% of people that are having to work multiple jobs in Canada. I call bullshit on that one. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.